Welcome, dirty peasants, to Wartwood Gazette, the Amphibia podcast. This is episode 35, and this week we'll be covering Amphibia Season 1, Episode 15, A Night at the Inn and Wally and Anne. I'm your host, Thembaticon, and joining me today we have King of the Uzbeks,
Hello.
Pixels,
What's up?
Nick,
Hey guys.
and new to the podcast we have Sunsfury.
Hello.
Alright, thanks guys for coming on. We're still in the hiatus. We're actually recording on the December 4th, but this is gonna come out on the 11th or maybe in January. I haven't decided, but just to keep things spaced out before the holidays takes up everyone's time. No news, so we'll go right. Well, before we start the episode, I want to talk to Sunsfury, who, since it's your first time on, I usually ask everyone, like, how'd you find out about Amphibia? Like, what are your general thoughts on it? If there's anything, like, if there's any other shows you watch and what you think of them?
So I've been in Amphibia since day one, jumping in from previous shows, jumped in through Gravity Falls, Star, yada yada, that kind of general vague thing. It's probably one of my favorite current shows that's running. Been a blast. I do watch a few other things I've been going through. Doing stuff like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was fun. Bit of background every now and then. Me, I will say my favorite character in Amphibia has to be Anne, with a close second to Sasha, who is just a bit too fun to talk about to not include in favorite character moments. So, anything else I should introduce myself with?
No,
I'm from Down Under, if that helps explain my Gazette to anybody watching, listening.
All right, thank you, Sunsfury.
You're
And
welcome.
like I'm saying that right, like Sunsfury.
Yeah.
All right.
Sunsfury. Yeah.
So, so I think we'll start off with A Night at the Inn. So it was written by Gloria Shen, storyboards by Catherine Marsrick and Kyler Spears, and directed by Derek Kirk Kim. So the episode starts off with the Anne and the planners have reached like the entrance of the mountain pass, but unfortunately it's still frozen over, so Anne can't travel outside the valley yet. So like while they're there, like Sprig and Anne quickly go on a mini adventure. I think Sprig even mentions like a mini adventure just to lighten Anne's mood. Polly wants to explore the forest on the opposite side, but Hop Hop immediately forbids her from doing that because she's still a pollywog. Anne and Sprig immediately return. Apparently, they're chased by some creature behind them that we don't see. They quickly scurry off. They talk about their quick journey or their quick side event, much to Polly's dissatisfaction. And then suddenly Bessie like stops in the middle of the path. Something's wrong. Well, Polly wants to check under the hood, but Hop Hop doesn't want her to do that because she's too young. It starts to rain, and they need a place for shelter. And then after their tent gets zapped or blown away and zapped by lightning, they decide to go into an inn that they see in the distance. So the planners enter the Dandelion, which is run by, I think it was Bullfrog.
Yeah, bullfrogs.
It was like horned bullfrog, it's this elderly couple that run the inn.
I know it was Martha, but I forgot the other one.
Teddy and Martha.
Teddy and Martha. Okay.
So they offer them a place to stay for the night. Since there's not many guests, they offer each of each of the planners their own room for the price of one. But Polly has to share a room with Hop Hop. So they're hanging out. Polly finds out that there's another room like connected to the room with Hop Hop, and after using her cuteness, she eventually convinces Hop Hop to let her stay in the other room. So she's trying to. She has her like she waits for Hop Hop to like fall asleep, and then she immediately has her fun. Then right when she's about to go, when she goes to bed, she's kind of freaked out by the dark, and we get some gags. But then eventually, like Polly's kind of too afraid to go to sleep, so she decides to visit Anne and Sprig, but are mysteriously not in their rooms. Polly, getting a little bit more, starting to panic a little, rushes back to Hop Hop, like her room with Hop Hop. Or first, she goes to her own room because she doesn't want to prove Hop Hop's point. But then eventually, like after hearing some more noises in the background, she quickly rushes to Hop Hop's room. But unfortunately, he's not there either. And that's when we get the what's of course looks like the one of the owners like in a hooded mask, like or in a hood, trying to grab Polly, but she quickly escapes through the laundry chute that was in Sprig's room, or probably in every room. Then eventually, like she slides down the vents. She eventually reaches like what looks like the basement, where you see Teddy and two other ladies pretty much deciding who they get to eat, and that's when Polly realizes they're cannibals. So Martha walks in. She was the one in the hood. Apparently, like her cookies are what caused all the planners to like pass out, and then they plan on cooking them. But that's when Polly quickly intervenes, wakes them up, and then has to fight off these cannibals. Luckily, she's able to get the marinade sauce to like she like kicks it down with her like bow. They slip, and then they quickly rush. Anne and the planners eventually rush out, and then Anne decides to do a little chemistry. So eventually, the planners reach the barn where Bessie is stashed. They find out that it was actually like a snail trap that was what caused Bessie to like slow down earlier on. And then we find out with all the other snails inside this barn that the inn is pretty much just like a bait for travelers to enter and eventually get eaten. So eventually, they all head out of the barn, and then you find out that Anne mixed together the vinegar and baking soda, causing the inn to explode. And then eventually, they all reach home. Hop Hop realizes that Polly is like old enough to have a little more independence, but after tonight, she kind of just wants to sleep with him. So they're all just when you think the segment's about to end. Sprig and Anne, also traumatized by the night's events, uh, also join Hop Up and Polly on the bed, and the episode just ends with them all snuggled together, and Sprig's cold feet, freaking out Hop Up, and that's a night at the inn. So I think this is the first time we've had Polly focused episodes in the past, like such as with her, I guess, Girl Time. You could say it
Yeah.
was a Polly focused episode, but I feel like this one was a lot more solo since that one had a little bit more Anne in it. And I
Right.
really liked this episode. How time it's still it kind of reminds the viewers that while Sprig and Anne are always adventuring, like Polly is occasionally left out because of her age, and it's not
Right.
something it's not something she's happy with.
Would you say it's like a type of neglect or now?
I wouldn't say it's neglect because like occasionally she does join on the adventures, like the whole like the family ensemble cast episodes. But me, I don't want to say it's neglect.
Bit too much, I guess.
It's just
Maybe.
like the sort of fun that she can't like hop in. I like, you know what I mean? Like Sprig and Andy said that sort of bond that like while they do love Polly, like she's not right. She's not on that level, I guess, in a way. Like I don't want to put her down.
And even though she can still move around, it's like it's important to know that she's still hopping and occasionally requires the bucket,
Yeah.
especially in season 1.
Yeah.
Yep. Plus, sometimes she needs someone to carry her and run away with them.
Right.
Yeah, she is notably slower than everyone else in a choice.
But like overall, I really enjoyed this episode. I liked the dandelion is so like it looks so cozy, but then when you like find out what's going on, it kind of twists the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's still a cozy setting, and we got that Big City Greens reference that I know
The
that shows
plush.
up. Yeah, like every few months or every few weeks, I see that pop up. And it's nice that people are give the other Farm Family show
Still a
some
great
love.
show to watch.
But yeah, Polly was great. All the horror aspects were pretty were nicely balanced with Amphibia's humor.
Mhm.
But I guess I'll probably talk more about this later. I guess starting with Sunsfury, what were your thoughts on this segment?
Okay, so first of all, as a chemistry major, I have to congratulate Anne. That was a very fun moment, even though it would never work like that in the real world. I have to go, yay, chemistry too.
Big brain move. Big brain move.
um, uh, there's a few different things that I like about this. I like that there's a bit of a callback to Hop Pop's weird sleeping habits, where Polly is waiting for him to go to sleep before she can sneak out and then start partying with Anne and Sprig, or at least intending to. And she just counts down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hop Pop knocks out completely to sleep. And that reminded me of one of the previous episodes. I think it's like really early on, where we just see Hop Pop asleep with his eyes wide open sitting in a chair.
Oh, Best Franz, I think.
Yeah, best fronts when they're stealing the key. Oh, hmm. Um, do. That moment close to the end where they free Bessie and find all of the other snails. There are two things that I really like about that. First is, of course, just the dawning. Good grief, there are dozens of other couples who have and families who have been eaten by these people, and yes, it did happen, and yes, this is a thing that they were doing for a long time. Big yikes, kind of big moment. That just love that reveal. But also, when they were trying to get to Bessie and figure out what was wrong with her, Hop Pop did not hesitate and went, "Polly, your turn. Help do this thing now." And he just implicitly went, "Yep, no, you're old enough. You can figure it all out." That kind of, I can trust you to be responsible. Even before he has that sit down moment with her back at home, where he explicitly lines up, "Yeah, okay, I should be getting you to do more stuff." I loved seeing that. Hmm.
All right, thank you, Sunsfury.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Finally,
sorry
one of
about
those
that. Go
things
ahead.
just all the way back to the start of the episode, one of the notes that I had, that there's another mention, just one of those things that gets scattered around Amphibia, where there's just an episode, and oh hey, here's a mention, here's how things are going with the main quest. This time it's, oh hey, just a few more weeks and the pass will be melted down, and everything will be good. Yes, it's just past the snow day, but we've got a bit more time until things can get moving out of the valley, which is nice to be reminded of every now and then. There we go.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Sunsfury. Yeah, I like that brief mention at the beginning, still
Oh
giving
yeah.
us some updates. Pixels, what were your thoughts on the segment?
It was a really good episode. I love how we got the focus on Polly most of the episode. Just showing just that she just wants some more independence. I wouldn't say she wants more trust, but she wants to have more independence, and she kind of knows the way around of how Wartwood goes, and I like that. To the barn scene, where they saw the snails, that just it reminded me of Criminal Minds, where you just in the middle episode, you just see the bodies and stuff. I know it sounds a bit gruesome, but it makes a bit sense of what I'm saying. The gags are hilarious. And doing that chemistry moment was pretty cool. And she used her big brain knowledge to just, you know, hey, I found these too. I remember something from school. Like, just oh my god, it's a really good episode too. Like, I like the atmosphere of it too. Like, it's a bed and breakfast. Like, it's not like in the middle of nowhere, right? It's like along the road. Would you say? Like, would you say that, guys?
Yeah, kind of.
Right.
It's off to the side, like it's on the road, but it's a bit of a side location. At least it
Yeah.
feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's somewhere near like the exit to the valley, I guess. That's where we can at least put it.
Mm-hmm. All in all, it's probably one of my it's a really good season one episode, especially with the upcoming episodes after the specific episodes that we're gonna be talking about. So yeah.
All right, thank you, Pixels. Uzbeks, what were your thoughts on this segment?
I really liked it. Like Sunsfury mentioned, it's nice to sort of have a little update on, like, why she's still in the valley, show that they're still actively trying to do stuff. I like the sort of cozy bread and breakfast feel. This is the start of a few polycentric episodes where a lot of it is about, like, hey, she wants to be grown up, she wants to be responsible, she wants to be the adult, but she really isn't ready for that yet. And so this starts her trend. It's a nice look at her going solo. A nice reminder she's still a baby. Sometimes she doesn't act like 6 or whatever her actual canon age is. The villains are nice. If Children in the Spore, a little later in the season, is like a zombie movie, this is like a haunted house. Not quite slasher, but it's another sort of horror movie. I like the contrast between sort of the nice Canadian or Minnesotan hosts and like the brutal cannibals. The scene where she's like slapping them awake, and like I forget what Hop Hop does, but Anne's like, just 5 more minutes, and then Spriggs and me's like, "Hi, Polly." That was so funny. Um, as people mentioned, the sort of like when they get in and like Hop Hop lets Polly help with the snails, which is a nice callback to the start of the episode. And Sprig's like Sprig or Hop Hop's just realizing now that they're the cannibals. And then yeah, Anne blowing it up. I think those are her first confirmed like kills of like sentient creatures. And Marcy would be very proud about the chemistry knowledge. But yeah, they don't really dwell on the fact that she just killed like 4 people.
Well, for all we know, maybe
But
they
good
just
episode.
they just passed out. Yeah, or
Maybe
Yeah.
they just passed
I mean,
out
I
and they
hope they
thought their
died.
ways.
Ow.
I hope they die. Like,
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not so sure we can say confirmed kills there.
I mean, I hope
So
they
four
died after
question-
that.
four
But
question
this is the
marks.
first time she like
Aimed
probably
to-
kills someone.
Like, I really hope she killed them because just imagine them
Wow.
still. What
Actually,
do you mean? Wow! Like imagine
I mean,
them
they're
killing
cannibals.
more
It's
frogs. Yeah.
if Anne's gonna build a body count, at least there's a good reason
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Nick, what were your thoughts on this segment?
Honestly, just a really great one. This is our first. I mean, I know we had great Girl Time with Van, right? But I know this is our really first. So I'd say like it's our first solo poly episode. I'm just glad to say that it was a great one. Just a really good way to start episodes like that. I really love the jewelry setting that was just set since the beginning of the sky. Like I just noticed that we already had thunderclouds in there. So that really set the mood for the episode. Lots of funny moments. I don't know. I just have to applaud the fact that they really I'm just really happy to say that they really went here and made a very ambitious episode. Like I feel because I don't know, I'm like at a loss of words here because I just have like so many thoughts I want to put out here. But like, yeah, I don't know. Just all around, just a great episode, a really scary one too. Like I found myself like even so I've seen this episode probably like I don't know like 4 or 5 times. Like I'm still like there's still some scenes where when I'm genuinely like anticipating a jump scare, but. I don't know. I mean, so a lot of people covered like some things I would want to go over, but yeah, I don't know. I'd just say all around a great episode.
All right, thank you, Nick. So yeah, I'm starting off with I'm just going through the details of the episode. We got we already covered about like the mountain pass still being frozen over. Yeah, uh Hop Hop immediately falling asleep. Okay, so Nick, you mentioned the jump scares, and I'm still thinking about like what the hell that bowling pin, that monster in the corner gag
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't even know.
Like a Tales of the
Yeah.
Crypt monster, and that's just
Yeah.
just this.
We did get a Cricket Green cameo
Yes.
on the shelf.
Oh yeah, that was super nice. It's always nice to get little. It's always like nice to get little nods like that.
And also, like when Sunsfury was talking about the when you mentioned the like the snails in the barn, like I remember my first thought when like I saw that snail that we see first just says just hitched, so you just know like there was just like this
Yeah.
couple on their honeymoon and they just got like man.
See, like I just when I saw this episode for the first time, I was just I just thought it was gonna be like the classic cartoon episode where it's revealed that this seemingly suspicious family is actually just like a nice normal family. Like I was waiting for that twist, but it never came. And then when we finally got to that scene of the snails, that's when it hit me. Like holy shit, these are actual cannibals. Like they actually went there. And not only that, they make that scene haunting too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they were nice. They were just totally evil.
Yeah.
What being very polite about it. Yeah, I was not expect. I was expect they were just too nice from the start. That I expected the sort of classic cartoon subversion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I anticipated they would wind up being a bit evil.
And I also want to say, it's a very cliche thing for a cannibal farmer because he was just wearing overalls with a plaid shirt. Like that's that's a bit of a cliche to me when it comes to like episode like resolving about like those evil farmers or whatever. That's just me.
And I like the way they well, in hindsight, the way they obviously like set up a lot of elements of these episodes, like the cookies, and then Polly refusing like the pity cookies, like actually worked in her favor, as well as the like when Spring is just jumping on the bed, he's like, "Hey, look, a laundry chute." It's played up as a gag, and then later on it becomes like
Yeah.
integral to the story. I like that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's of course it's like storytelling 101. It's nice pointing them out.
Oh, the special? No, I found that scene so funny. Like, he's like, look, a laundry chute. He jumps out there. He's gone for a good 5 seconds, and he comes back on the screen. I really like that small moment.
Classic Sprig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the scene where she realizes they're all missing, and she's like, Anna would never leave her phone behind. And then same, I think, with Sprig's hat, which I think is
Yeah, like
cute. Shows Polly knows her family.
yeah, and then she just like zooms off screen when she like
Yeah.
when she tries to
Oh,
go back.
yeah.
The scene at the beginning where Hop Pop's like, no, we have a tent, we don't need to pay for a bed and breakfast. And then, like, the tent blows away and gets struck by lightning and catches on fire and turns to ash. Like, I found that very funny. That little sequence of
It's just so
Yeah,
good.
I'm replaying the scene again. Like, it's like it's like in 3 seconds gets blown away and then struck by lightning, and then just the episode just continues on.
Yep.
So we talked about the chemistry gag. Well, I really love the how the ending of this episode is super wholesome with just all
Oh,
of them
yeah.
cramped together.
Mm.
I just love Polly's. Yeah, like I just feel like what brings it all together is just Polly's like cute little laugh right there. You know, I found that adorable.
Yeah, like and the cold feet with the hop on spray, like that was so relatable. Yeah, it's just a nice way to end the episode.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely is like. I mean, it was like much needed levity. Like, I love how Anne was like, "Yeah, this is a traumatizing experience for us." It's just having a nice little moment like that was like really needed, especially after that snail scene. Like, that's even so. Like, I've seen it a bunch of times. It's just like when you look at all the small details. Like, yeah, like you said, like just hitched. When you just think about like the lives that were just stolen, just like that. Yeah, it definitely hits you.
Stolen for supper.
Yeah. Man. Oh, we actually, yeah. Now I just reminded me because I didn't really like that one moment where wait, but what did Sprig say? Like he said, "We're the breakfast in bed and breakfast."
Breakfast
I was
and
like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's like,
yep,
yeah, obvi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pop-Up's learning some slang.
Yeah.
Pop learned from Anne.
Watch out, world. He's coming.
Yes.
Oh, and
Slang
why
Pop
does
pollution.
Hop Hop like put that pickle stuff on his feet? Like, what is that
He's
even?
old, and old
Yeah.
people have ointments.
I'm trying to see the name of it. It's just called like Rix, Vix. Oh, maybe it's Vix. Because I know some people like old people people put like not Vaseline like vapor rub on their feet
Yeah.
and it's
Vicks.
soothing. Yeah.
It's Vicks Vapor Rub.
Okay.
I'm trying to get over to that scene right now. Let's see it. Isn't when Hop Up goes to bed for the first time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's when he goes to bed for the first time. And it's like, yeah, 1 bedroom, 1 bedtime.
Yep.
Polly is not impressed.
Yeah, like I'm looking at the screenshot, just her arms are crossed.
It's
But
impressive
The
that
little
you can
stub
make Polly.
arms. A little stub arm.
and also yeah, like Polly probably has to like deal with all of Hop Pop's like quirks since they're sleeping
Yeah,
together.
it's snoring. Yeah.
I mean, it's not her time in Amphibia that's harder than her. It's just like dealing with Hop Pop's like with her roommate situation.
Yeah. Because I know, like Hop Up, like what did Hop Up say back in what was it? I forgot. You know, it was like the whole roommate episode of Anne and
Oh,
Spring.
the roommate episode, and he's talking about like cleaning out the webbies or like crunchies from between his toes, causing like strife between him and his presumably spouse.
Yeah, because I'm betting Hop Pop was probably the bad roommate in that situation. Just what we what we saw in this episode, I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like I can't imagine having to sleep in the same bed as that old man because you can't even get in there about him just complaining or just doing something dumb.
Yeah, so I think we covered everything.
No, there's no there's no way.
I know that's why I'm trying to like go through everything. Like
Shit.
we covered like the valley, we covered the laundry chute, cricket cameo. I mean, Polly was super cute with like all of her like her montage. It lasts like, and I like how this we get a lot of montages in Amphibia. I like how this one just lasted like
Oh yeah.
less than 10 seconds, and then we're just back in
Yeah.
the episode.
Yeah, because this episode knew there was no time for fun. Like, that's what I really like about this. I mean, yeah, this episode definitely just feels different from a lot of the episodes they had in season 1. I feel like.
Is this our first like pseudo horror episode? Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah, because I feel like this
episode had a little of that.
Yeah, because I feel like this episode it really leans into like the horror of Amphibia. I feel like because like usually it's sort of in the background, they're just playing with it, but this is like they're like directly reminding you that this is like a very, very dangerous world they live in.
I disagree with that. Because this isn't like the horror of an amphibious sort of natural environment being hostile to life, the way that most of the episodes are. That's like the scary monsters, the like inhospitable wilderness. That's not what's scary this episode. This is in a sort of civilized house, but cannibals. So in that sense, it's a very different sort of horror than what we've gotten so far.
Yeah, sure, but I just feel like this is the episode that actually leans into actually being like horror based. You know what I mean? Like it actually leans into a horror genre.
Yes, I'd agree about the genre, but I think it's a little different than like saying this isn't like, oh, you saw a skull in the background of one episode. This is very simple.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair then. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like how this episode will eventually like come back in the shut-in when it's basically it's just basically Polly just saying like or reminding the audience that we already had like 2 Halloween segments before the actual Halloween special.
Oh right, in the shut-in, yeah. That's
Forgot about that one.
Yeah, like in the shut-in, like when Polly's trying to tell her own scary story, like where she talks about like the shut-in, not shut-in, Night at the Inn and Children of the Sport. Like she actually calls them by their episode titles.
Yeah, honestly, you just reminded me. Weren't we like planning on covering like the shut-in before we knew that season 3 was coming like faster than we thought it was?
Originally the plan was that like we just since the shut-in is considered non-canon, like we would have covered that on Halloween because I think it was on Saturday or Sunday this weekend, like this year. So it would have lined up nicely, but then I mean, season 3 came back, which is even better.
Yeah. So yeah.
Good timing. Good timing.
So I think we're gonna move on to Wally.
Wait, no, we can't abandon this episode yet. We can't.
What else is there to talk about?
Let's
Nick,
talk.
I'm trying.
Maybe,
I love looking for details before we go into like the segment most of us want to talk about even longer about.
We gotta let's talk about Polly's development. Let's talk about Polly's development, Hop-Pop's development. I feel like that's something we can still pick apart here because I feel like this is still an important episode for the two of them.
Ben in the chat is asking, are there any similarities to the graphic novel Bone? And you are correct, Ben. There are.
Oh my God, Ben!
Yes.
When it's raining,
read that at some point.
We already spent like 20 to 30 minutes talking about Bone in the last episode, so let's just stick to Polly and Hop-Pop development here. So,
all right.
I just wanted to say, I think while it is a super fun horror episode, this is also like an important development, I'd say, for Polly and Hop-Pop's relationship because this is built around a Hop-Pop, initially, underestimating Polly and just treating her as a baby to really just recognizing the sort of value she can have as I'd say, someone with more responsibilities, I guess. So, I don't know. Sure.
I guess I wouldn't, because even in the first episode, Hop-Pop trusted Polly more than Sprig. But I guess in this case, it's mostly just, independence, to do whatever she wants, rather than...
And, Hop-Pop is a traditional man, and, the older child gets more independence, typically. And so he's sort of just following the right with quotes around it way to do things.
Right, and even like throughout the season and even in future segments, we'll kind of see like Hop Hop continuing to like push these responsibilities onto Sprig and like the
Yeah,
dynamic
Polly was the
between them.
baby. You know.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, I just think it's also good. I feel like Hop Hop also eventually learns to ease up with the family too, right? Because I know, like, especially during early season one, he was like very authoritative to them and never let them like really take any risk unless, I mean, I guess he was pushing them himself. So, like, I don't know, just have an episode like this where he has to acknowledge that Polly, you know, she really can be helpful and play a part. I think it's just good for him too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and then like now that she has legs in like season 3, like it's nice to see her be more involved. Well, she was always more involved as long as the planners were together. Just like her having legs, it's still like I know we talked about like in the season 3 recap like discussions that just like Polly having legs and just being able to just move with the rest of the cast
Yeah.
has been a big change on its
Yep.
own.
Yeah, so I guess a part of it development, I mean, like, yeah, so there has been like independence, right? Just like really being able to do things on her own, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, this is sort of one of those times where she's starting to actually test her limits and just try to actually push outside those boundaries.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, which is the thing that that does come up a lot in the solo episodes. I know with was it like Truck Stop Polly sort of, right? Like she's left alone by the family again, and it's really just, I mean, it's not like the night at the end because most of this is her having fun, but like it's sort of like that idea.
Well, even
She
in
isn't
like
left behind, she's intentionally left behind.
Oh yeah.
She leaves herself behind.
and even like before that happens, like it was her like pretty much like pushing the limits like with the family with her antics, which pretty much like drive them over the edge, and they say something they instantly like backtrack on, but unfortunately like Polly hears the wrong parts in
Yeah.
that segment, which like
Yeah, it's a classic. It's a
yeah,
classic.
we'll get to
Yeah,
Truck Stop
we'll get
Polly.
to that.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just great, you know. Like I really do feel like this is something they at least try to be consistent with, right? Like just slowly laying just slowly letting the family ease up on Polly and just let her start to become more independent. I mean, it is a really great thing that she eventually grew legs.
Yeah. And I think with that, now we're gonna move on to Wally and Anne. So let me pull up the credits. Okay, so Wally and Anne was written by Adam Colas, storyboards by Jen Strickland and Steve Wolfhard, and directed by Bert Yoon. So the episode starts off with Anne and the planners. They're all picking berries out in the forest. And like Hoppa makes that quick joke about like that quick rhyme about which like berries are edible and which ones will kill them instantaneously. Or sorry, I should just say instantly.
Instantly.
um, so Anne sees like a blurred, like shadowed figure like in the bushes, and eventually discovers this weird mossy creature like that's well I shouldn't get into more detail. Like she just sees this creature and it's very like it's like just like it's not it's just hanging around, and then eventually Anne chokes on a butterfly and that it scares the creature off. So Anne explains what she saw to the planners. They explain it's the rumored Mossman, which isn't real according to them, and then we get that quick joke about Anne like pointing out all the other horrors in this world, but they're just a normal family, which Anne like gets fed up because they're all talking frogs from her point of view. So they head back to town. Anne is still obsessed with this creature, and then like eventually like she does like a couple of like hand motions, which Hop Hop compares her to Wally, and like Anne is super offended by that. And then at that moment, Hop Hop, not Hop Hop, sorry, Wally comes into the episode, recalls his experience with the Mossman. Some of it may or may not be true, since apparently he took his arm off, but still there. So then everyone walks off after making fun of Anne. But then Sprig tells Anne that he believes her, and sorry, he. I'm trying to look for the wordplay that that Sprig did there. He's like, "I believe you dreamt it. I believe you dreamt it."
Yeah, that
And
was clever. I like
and
that.
then
Channeling some level there.
we get that cutaway scream. Anne can't sleep. She's having nightmares about being compared to Wally, uh, complete with that weird head swap with Anne's head on Wally's body. So then she decides to set out to actually find the Mossman by uh, teaming up with Wally, who's just playing his accordion in the middle of the night before Anne snatches him. And he is instantly on board with taking Anne to the Mossman, much to Anne's surprise. But of course, he's playing the accordion the whole way for like the next 8 hours and many more hours after that. Eventually, they're crossing a cliff on a mountain. Anne falls, but Wally catches her and then catches her phone after. And Anne's more concerned about the phone, of course, rather than her own life. But this is when she starts to trust Wally, because earlier she didn't want to talk about her life because she considered him a stranger. But then eventually, by the end of the night, they're doing their special handshake. And this handshake, apparently, Anne's friends, Anne's friends thought they were silly, but Wally kind of gives his advice to Anne about not caring what people think, and how now that Anne's in another world, she has a chance to be whoever she wants, and Anne kind of takes the time to think about that while Wally comedically agrees in his sleep. So the next morning, they eventually reach the Misty Moors, the rumored spot of the Mossman. So they do a summon, while Wally does a summoning ritual, Anne recognizes the glowing butterflies that were in the Mossman's first appearance back in Wartwood. She eventually bumps into it. They try chasing it, but unfortunately it gets away. And then that's when we find out that Wally has never seen the Mossman, but until now. So then Anne just basically realizes that he just led her based on a lie. And then she's kind of upset that they lost the Mossman again, and now everyone will think that she's as weird as him. And that kind of Wally is visibly upset by Anne's comments, but then she immediately apologizes basically, and they do a failed attempt at their handshake, but they basically reconcile. And then they rush off to get to catch the Mossman again. It turns out they saw the tracks that led up a not mountain, like a rocky cliff. They tried climbing it and reached the top, but Wally couldn't. And Wally unfortunately slips, and he's hanging on by a branch, and then by a root, I guess. So then
Was it a
Anne,
branch or root? Because
I'm pretty sure it's a root, because I'm not sure if it was a branch, it'd be part of a tree. If it's a root, it's probably
okay.
something underneath eventually coming out.
Because when they first got to Wally, when on the cliff, it looked like it was holding onto a root or a branch. But when
Actually,
it
yeah,
got
looking at the video again, it looks like a branch.
right, but
Anyways,
when they zoomed in, it looked like a root bending.
yeah, that's
You know what I mean by that? Like,
yeah. Oh man, 2 out of 10 episode. But so Anne chooses to save Wally over getting a picture of the Mossman. Unfortunately, by the time both of them climb up the ledge, it's unfortunately gone. But Anne's okay with it. She's just Anne's just okay with it. And then as long as they both saw it, that's all that matters. And then Wally, we're not sure whether Wally actually forgot or not. and eventually, like, unfortunately, her pat on the back like pushes Wally off the cliff, anyways. But he's still alive. It cuts back to Wartwood. Uh, Wally is retelling their tale to the rest of the town while she plays accordion, but without any proof. They're just considered a bunch of weirdos. So Wally heads out. He's happy with the journey he had with Anne. The planners meet up with Anne again. They think Anne is just like super unhappy that she's considered someone like Wally, but Anne's totally fine with it, but they still keep on going. But then she just pretends she's like a beast and chases them off screen. And that's Wally and Anne. So I'm gonna try and be brief. This is a very like nice. It doesn't lean too much into Anne's character development, but it gives just enough where it shows you. It does show the positive of Anne's time in Amphibia, like what it could do to her. And I know, like we've always had, like we the audience always knew that Anne's time in Amphibia was like slowly changing her for the better, and well, unfortunately, in this crazy world, like at least Anne kind of had Anne was slowly like figuring out whether subconsciously or consciously figuring out like what she needed to improve on for herself or self improvement. But Wally really spells it out here, and I know Wally, like we've seen Wally like appear in past episodes. We always looking back, we'd all think, oh, like can't wait for their team up episode, and just like both of them as outsiders, you expect it to be. You get what you expect, but it's so earnest, if that's the right word, in its
Yeah.
approach. Like you're still left feeling satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mossman's a whole other conversation. I'm not going to touch that for now. I think maybe for the rest of us, let's try and
Brief.
stay away from the Mossman talk until like we each get our general thoughts out.
Yeah, I was gonna say something. It just gave me vibes, but I'll do that later.
Yeah, because I know like the implications of the Mossman eventually like get revealed and whatever. Yeah, so we'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
I guess starting with Sunsfury, what were your thoughts on this segment?
Okay, so I look at my notes for this episode, and the first thing I wrote was yay, yay, yay. So that's a good start. I just think Wally is just iconic this episode. He's just easygoing nature. He's there. He has some on point advice to Anne. I think she says, "Back in my world, your reputation means everything. I can't afford to be labeled a weirdo." And Wally's response is, "Well, thank goodness you're not there right now." And you just see her go, "Oh my goodness, I can figure this out potentially." Um, it's beautiful to see Anne just learning to just be herself. There are a few things that are very suspicious in retrospect now that we've seen some seen some of season 3, and kind of re- suspicious in retrospect of True Colors, but that's for later on. Um, we've got another nod towards Anne's general athleticism even before Amphibia started, with a mention of her being in the bouldering club. Kind of nice to keep track of, I suppose, because it does actively explain a lot of our activities as being moderately reasonable for her to do. And finally, I have to shout out the end credits of like Amphibia in general, especially season 1 and 2. I just love them. I love the music of it. It's great. Ta-da.
All right, thank you, Sunsfury. Yeah, like I don't think seeing that scene of like Anne and Wally by the campfire, like that gave me a lot of like season 1 credit vibes, and it just like it's this image that like felt iconic for me. But Pixels, what were your thoughts on this segment?
It was a really, really great episode. I love the connection between like I love how the connection really built up with Wally and Anne, and like like if you can go back to like the first episode, like they kind of met. You know what I mean? In the first episode, because of because Wally was
Right.
already talking about the stuff. But when we saw it was Anne, it was like, oh, okay, so this is probably the first time the Wally interacted with her, but not like that. But like the more and more, like in this episode specifically, like their adventure, like it's kind of like a teaching moment, especially with what Wally said. Like he said, I don't care what people think about me. I'm still gonna be me. I was like, that hit home. That hit the heart. Like Wally's a Chad for saying that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, but and I want to say the environment fit so well with this episode too. Like with the cliffs and the along trials and walk, especially with the music, with the violin, well, back
The accordion?
the accordion, right? Yeah, it kind of fit too. And at the end, the ending was pretty funny too. Like that people are gonna think that Anne's crazy, but she's okay with that as long as they have the people by her side. It's fine. It's a really good episode. It's people who are feeling down. I would just recommend this episode. It gives you a good laugh, but also just gives you advice in general.
All right, thank you, Pixels.
Mhm.
Nick, what were your thoughts on this segment?
It was just a really great one, and just like a lot of people have told me that they consider this like one of season one's best episodes, and just rewatching it has totally shown me why. Like just the little French between like Anne and Wally, it's so simple, just like but like really executed well here. I love all the funny moments here. I love how like there's just like a lot of scenes I just feel like they went all out with, just like the presentation of it. Like when they get to like what do they call, like the Misty Meadows, like just how they transitioned over to them, with like the different layers of the mist. Like I found that to be like super nice and just really engaging right there. Like I agree with you there, Thumb, when you said that this wasn't like this wasn't exactly like a huge development for Anne, but it's sort of like giving her a chance to really take things into perspective here, just really look at sort of how things are going for her and like what she can do like in the future of herself. Just yeah, I don't know, just all around a fun episode. And I love how like it becomes even more important in the future, like you guys have said. Just yeah, I don't know. Just to me, this is just absolutely one of season one's best episodes.
All right, thank you, Nick. And Uzbeks, I know this was a personal favorite of yours, but what were your thoughts on the episode?
Oh, I love this episode. This episode is so great. So you have Anne's sort of worries about fitting in in Wartwood, which she's been struggling with, and fitting in back with her friends back home. You have that come up. You have sort of her desire to be believed. This is our first real introduction to Wally. Wally is the best Wartwood townie. He's just so funny. Even like if he has one line in an episode, he's hilarious. If he's the focus of an episode, he's hilarious and great. Here, he was the first one to see him when he showed up. He's like constantly calling her a monster, but like he still wants to be friends. He still takes her on this great adventure into the Misty Moors. And like Nick Pixel were saying, it's just gorgeous. Just the design this episode is so great. It's relatively unique for the rest from the other sort of backgrounds we get. These all the fireflies, the grass, and the stars, and the fireflies. The Mossmen, we'll talk about that more later, but the design is very visually distinctive from what we've seen elsewhere. Wally's the talk with Anne around the fire, as like Anne realizes, I can make a new self here. I'm not just defined by what I was at home, and Wally helping her realize that, and what we learned in season 2 about Wally and like his own upbringing and how that applies. Um, Wally is, think, Anne's sort of best friend outside the planters in Wartwood. I mean, we see in the shut-in she has his birthday, and then she asks the fake Wally for advice, and if you give her frog a cookie. And then it's not just sort of a one note Wally's delivering this lesson, because then Anne's like, I don't want to be a weirdo like you, and he's hurt by that, even though he was just talking about how you shouldn't care what other people think. He still does care about what she thinks. And then, of course, at the end, she chooses him over her sort of mad dream of seeing the Mossman. It's just so heartwarming. At the end, where she's finally like accepted that they can see me as a little weird. It doesn't matter. This is one of the few real hints in season 1 of sort of what her friendship dynamic was back on Earth, outside of like episodes with Sasha. This is one of the few ones where we get a hint of how directly, like, I mean, obviously it's looming over the whole season, but this is one of the first only ones where we really see her like talk about her friends back on Earth. Direct. So yeah, just a great episode. One of my favorites of season 1. One of my favorites of the whole show.
All right, thank you, Uzbeks. And yeah, just starting off with the animation this episode, I think, to be very brief, this feels like an episode of like Hilda. I mean, that was like the highest compliment. Like, just like even the lighting with the mist, and then even Anne encountering the Mossman for the first time, like the lighting is noticeably different. And then in the evening, by the campfire, you get that lighting, like that. Yeah, it's just like all the lighting here just like changes scene to scene, like constantly, which I didn't really notice in earlier episodes, but like I noticed it here immediately on my first watch. And that's just like I haven't even talked about the Mossman yet. Like,
yeah, I will say the opening scene with the butterflies. I mean, that's obvious and has been associated with butterflies before. It's this nice sort of the glow it has is completely different from any other scene we've had in the woods of Amphibia up to this point.
And I'm looking at. Okay, so the planners. I just like how the planners are not very involved in the. They're not involved in this episode at all. I'm trying to look at the last time this was the case. Because I know Thai feud, not Thai feud. Oh my god, Lily Pad Thai was the first.
Yeah,
like that was like the first time Anne like bonded with a
different.
Yeah, with like that's the first time she went like outside the planner farm and interacted with someone else.
Right.
And I'm quickly looking through these episodes again, and that might still be the case.
Yeah.
Well, of course, like okay, maybe Toad Tax, like so Lily Pad Thai, Toad Tax.
I'm not sure about Toad Tax because like them coming around to the planters is a big emotional moment for the episode. It's her choosing them over.
Oh, right at the farm. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, so we wouldn't count that. Yeah, so it seems like
this might be this might be it.
Yeah, where Anne doesn't.
Yeah, this is
like an Anne-focused episode that doesn't involve. Well, I guess you could say Snow Day because that was mostly just saving Polly. Okay, maybe. Yeah, so maybe like outside of Lily Pad Thai, like Wally and Anne is the most like, in a good way, it's the most like distant episode Anne has had with the rest of the planners.
Yeah, and I guess that's what makes Wally's impact on the story just like really impactful. You know what I mean? Like it really memorable and impactful because like how many other characters have we had like really been serviceable towards Anne development besides the planters. I mean, just have this one-off adventure with this one character. I mean, that's going to be like ingrained in your head when you know you have like how many segments does season 1 have again? Like was it like 38, 39? I can't remember. But like it just affect there's a ton of individual stories in season 1, and then there's just one of Wally, and that's going to be ingrained in your head.
And like it definitely like justifies the Wally and Anne title.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they really pulled it off.
Yeah, James Patrick Stewart, I just looked him up. He's the voice actor for Wally. He does a great job here. Like being loud and sort of cacophonic when he needs to, and being quiet and more reserved when he needs to. He does a great job this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I like how so I know we already mentioned this, like Anne, like Wally was the first character we met in Amphibia, like in the show itself, and it was him
Right.
encountering Anne, and then that night the night where Anne sneaks out to get him, it's like basically like he basically references their first time meeting.
Yeah, it's like
and he completely forgot that Anne like jumped him. Because he was like too busy like screaming and running away in that first episode.
It's a nice little callback too. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of funny moments too. Though I think I really enjoyed the small moment where you know it's after they bully the crap out of her and she just looks pissed off. Then Sprig's like, "And don't worry, I believe you." She's like, "Oh, I believe you." Right? Then it just cuts to them over freaking out. Like, I love that. Like that was just great.
And also like after the planners like bully the hell out of Anne, like they're just eating the next day. Like, oh, where is she?
Yeah,
like they don't even try looking for her.
Yeah, like their indifference is so great.
Yeah, the scene where Anne's like, "All right, I can let this go," and then she's like, cut immediately to her, "I cannot let this go."
Yeah, I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, didn't Sprig do the same thing in Cracking Mrs. Croker?
Yeah, I think he did. Oh, it's one of those classic ones that gets used a few times around Amphibia, I'm fairly sure.
Yeah.
And it's always so good.
And then
Yeah, I don't know. The planters were just absolute bullies in this episode, but yeah, I really have to agree with Anne. Like, even so, yeah, it's their own world, and they're gonna have their own perspective on this stuff. It's just so weird to have a world of talking frogs say they don't believe in a mystical creature. I mean, that's just insane. I understand from their perspective, but like for me, like
especially when there's a creature from another world living in their basement. Like Anne should be proof of the impossible to them, but nope.
Yeah,
no Mossman.
It's like I can totally understand her frustration because they just sound insane.
And then like
Yeah.
the
Calling
dreams.
her one-shoe to Anne to like make her seem like one-eyed Wally.
Yeah, and then like
bullies.
That's probably what triggered like the nightmare where like her head is like on Wally's body. It's so cursed.
Oh, the scene where she's like
dreaming.
"Please, Wally, take me to the thing," and he's like, "Yes," and then she's like, "Please, please, please." Oh wait, you said yes. Like he's just I'm sorry, I keep thinking of funny moments, but like the song when he like does the song.
Oh yeah, for like 8 hours, right?
And it's like 19 hours later, and it's like finally done. And it's like, oh, and she's like, oh, thank God. And she's like, or is it?
Yeah, but it just keeps going. I love that.
And then like the part where I like that minor detail where like a minute ago Anne called Wally a stranger, and then right after he saves her on the phone,
Yeah.
he talks about like how he knows how much like the phone means to Anne.
Oh,
And then like you can like see the look on Anne's face where she's like kind of realizing like she was in like that she like was in the wrong, and then immediately when it cuts to the next scene of them doing like the handshake thing, it was just like
They're like
very wholesome to
besties.
see.
I do want to talk some about Anne's mention of her friends, because I think it's interesting now that we've sort of, when we first saw it, it was just more, oh, she had shitty friends back home, but now we've had good solid season of both Sasha and Marcy.
Yeah,
And
now
so
we
I
have
think
like
it's
a clear
interesting to
idea of
look
that
back on that.
dynamic. Yeah, I really
I
did
do-
want to play off. Oh, sorry, I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do find it a little odd in retrospect about like Marcy making Anne feel bad about like being weird or something, because like Marcy is much weirder than Anne in sort of the traditional sense. She's a nerdy.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
I do, however, see like the handshake in particular. That sounds like something Marcy would be like, "Oh, Anne, that's this silly nonsense. Come work on this science experiment, whatever."
Or,
You
or
know,
Marcy might be too busy like playing video games. So
or
she
Yeah.
playing
can't, like,
video games, or like, yeah, she doesn't really get like she has trouble connecting with other people, so she doesn't really get why it's important to Anne and why calling it silly. She also seems like she'd go along with Sasha calling it silly. But I think, yeah, in retrospect, I highly doubt Marcy is like mocking Anne, but at the same time, she's not gonna be like, Marcy isn't great at like, she has a lot of problems, but she's not great at providing like emotional support to her friends, if that makes sense. Like, does she ever give like Anne some like really good advice, or like stand up for her in that sort of way? So
Yeah.
in retrospect, I think if you look at the development, just what they've discussed about they had far less of an idea of who Marcy would be early on than they had like Sasha or Anne. So I think, yeah, in retrospect, it is a little wonky at times, but I think it still overall fits the story Amphibia is trying to tell about friendship, and in particular, the story is trying to tell in season 1 about Anne and her approach to friendship.
yeah, I think the segment doesn't focus as much on the friendship aspect and more like on Anne herself and like what she wanted to be. But I know Uzbeks, you mentioned like, yeah, when Wally was actually hurt by like what Anne said, and I just love how like in any other segment like Wally probably didn't care, but then like now that he actually bonded with Anne, like hearing those like same like comments like kind of like now it hurt him after like it was just like a very nice like change in like there's an instant change in their dynamic now, and like we haven't like there's no backtracking on it anymore.
Oh yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, because it's just because this was like the first episode they really just actually interact with one another, right? Because I know they got like short, small scenes in the past, but like this was one where they actually formed the bond and got to know one another.
And this is the one where we realized Wally was more than like the crazy hobo character.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny to like knowing what we know now about Wally. Episodes like these are just kind of funny, you know.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Is this of the season 1 sort of towny episodes? This is the one that they made a direct sequel, basically a sequel to, with Swamp and Sensibility, or Sense and Swampability, in season 2. Like, this is something the crew recognized. This is a dynamic we want to continue into season 2, and I do hope we get at least one Wally episode in season 3, even though I know it's not going to happen. I really want it to.
Oh, that'd be great. Like, I mean, I love that Amphibia does come in 3, so like,
Yeah.
hopefully, like, my fingers are crossed for that. Yeah.
Sasha and Wally.
Wally drags Sasha and Marcy to teach him about the meaning of friendship.
Oh, that'd be great.
Like, oi, loves, today we'll play my accordion for the next 10 hours.
What was that accent?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Wait,
I wanted to try and like play off what you said before you Uzbeks about like Anne's friendship with Sasha and Mars, because I mean you really did get me thinking about that. Like, and I feel like I feel like with all the context we have now, just what we know about how things work between Anne and Sasha and Mars, I feel like just Anne trying to get away from being the person, like just I don't know, like I don't have like a specific word to put it down, but you know what I mean? Just Anne trying to get away from like being the joke of the group, like being the one that no one takes seriously. I feel like now that we know that like Sasha and Marcy, they both sort of don't respect Anne's more emotional side, right? They sort of look down on her for having that. I think it does paint an interesting picture and just like and sort of clarifies why she was so terrified of just coming across as a joke, right? And I just think it's pretty interesting, like to look back from all that context now.
Yes. And I mean, what was it in Scavenger Hunt? She asks Goofy when she reunites with Marcy, like the strawless thing. Like that was sort of her job in the friend dynamic, was the goofy friend, the slack off friend who's not like collected or smart. So just to a certain extent, and we saw that early on when she's very irresponsible and prankstery. But now, even in season 1, she wants to move beyond that role. Beyond sort of the generic troublemaker.
Yeah, she even mentions, right, like what she said, like your reputation is everything, right? And we know that in like her dynamic, right, between Sasha and Marcy, like they all have like very specific roles they play out in the group, and it does make sense for why Anne would try and like run away from that so desperately. I mean, besides her just being like like that average teenage girl, right? We're like, yeah, they really do care about how people view them. I mean, before we actually know now about their friendship, yeah, it is pretty interesting to sort of have that in this episode. And even then, like just the campfire scene, where they just talk to each other about how Anne's not back at home anymore, and this is really where she can set out to be who she wants to be. It is like a super important episode in retrospect.
And I like how. Oh, what was I going to say? Like, I love how Wally had no idea the Mossman was real.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that has to take the cake of it all. He's just completely ready to run off and have a good time with somebody and make a friend, and that's just kind of Wally in a nutshell.
That's so beautiful. But
I mean, like Anne can't deny they had fun. Like
that's why,
yeah. That's why, like, I instantly forget. Like, even so, I still forgave him. I still forgave him for that. Even so, he makes you stronger along. Like, he still gave her like a hell of a time. So, like, I have no complaints.
He still knew. He knew where to go. I mean, he knew where the legend was. So he still provided.
Yeah. Plus, he did save her phone. You can't. Oh yeah, I forgot that men's her, right? But, like, you see, so not only did he save her phone, but also her life. And like, I love that Anne was more immediately concerned over her phone being saved than her own life, right? Like, that was just hilarious.
And I also love how this episode didn't really rely on an antagonist for the story. Like,
yeah,
you could say for episodes like Grubhog Day. Actually, yeah, I think maybe since Grubhog Day, even Civil War, in a sense, like both like Sprig and Polly were like the antagonists of their own story, like of each other's story. Like here, it's not really the case. It's just them like just chasing a just chasing a myth.
Yeah, rather than having an external conflict, there's more of an internal one within Anne.
Right? Yeah, like just like Anne like putting up with Wally's antics and just eventually like them bonding. That was like more important. They didn't need like a third act monster for them to like team up and work together.
And also, that's just like the sweet stuff we can get from season 1 episodes. Like they don't have like huge stakes to play with. They don't have to worry about serialization. They don't have to worry about all that stuff. So they can just tell like a sweet, simple story like that. And like, yeah, that's why Wally and Anne just ends up being such a fan favorite. I feel like they knew they just wanted to focus on like the sweet bond between Wally and Anne, and like that's why they played with this episode, and it worked out really well for them.
but at the same time, I mean, it still managed to be relevant. I mean, it still managed to be exciting, and like, obviously, we've been dancing around the Mossman, but
Oh,
like,
yeah. Yeah, I just
talk
forgot.
about
I literally
a
forgot
fourth
that.
episode that turns out to be very important.
No, that's true.
Yeah, I think we can. I think we can get into that now. So like we encounter the Mossman, and like I wanted to mention this earlier, but Uzbeks kind of touched on it. Like the our first our first meeting with with the Mossman immediately, like even when I was first watching this, you could tell like this didn't really feel like it was part of this world in like the best possible way. And yeah, this is that first design where it's like because most of these creatures in Amphibia that and the planet's encounter are either like out for blood, like or either like extremely creepy or out for blood, specifically their blood. And it was just like a nice change of pace where just like this random creature isn't out to rip their skin off or something. And I guess like since Sunsfury is like the is our guest, like I guess what would you like to talk about for the Mossman himself or itself?
Oh gosh, the Moss Man. It's I think what's really neat is just that we have this little tiny token bit of setup way early on in season 1 that just has a surprising amount of payoff for how easy it was for everybody to just brush it off. Because not only do we go, oh hey, that's them in Olivia and Yunnan. Oh my goodness, there's another Mossman. We saw one of those in Wally and Anne. All of a sudden, you start to think, okay, but how did the Mossman get out into the wilderness of Amphibia? There's a story there. What's going on? How does this connect with what we just learnt about and Andreas and the past conquests? What's going on there? I think that's really interesting. And something I also want to bring up is that the second location where Wally brings Anne to find the Mossman, there's a whole bunch of ruins there. And I think one of those entrances similar to the ones we saw to the factories. So I just kind of noticed that on this rewatch, and that's suspicious too. So there's a story there, and I don't think we'll ever quite know the reality of it. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's always like when you see this episode, you see like the ruins, and I'm looking at the like as Wally and Anne go further on their quest, like you see more of these ruins. Like the campfire has like it looks like an old bell tower because like there's like a bell like half buried in the earth, and yeah, eventually they reach the top. There's more ruins lying around. Just I'm hoping we'll get an explanation, but like I'm not I doubt it. But it's just like a nice thing in the background. Like you can see there was like a world before like Amphibia's current era, and like I don't think we like they were. I remember back in the like Sunsphere. I think you were like. Do you remember back in the hiatus? Was there anyone talking about the ruins here? Because I think I saw it mentioned once or twice at the time.
I'm not
Uh,
sure if people really picked up. At least I didn't personally.
I did. I theorized that the second temple was going to be near Wartwood. I thought the arch looked similar to the
Oh,
design of the
right. Like I was talking about like pre-season 2, like back in the season
pre
1.
season 2. Sorry,
Yeah, no
I
worries. So yeah, like
missed that. I guess my guess is someone somewhere noted, "Hey, ruins," but before the ruins of disaster in Fort in the Road, we really didn't know that Amphibia was sort of this post-apocalyptic, post-industrial. That there was this society that had fallen in Amphibia um, idea. Like that wasn't really something anyone really considered. I don't think.
no,
Like it was this story. This is how it's always been. Not that there was ruins like important history or anything.
I think most of the talk at the time was around the gems themselves. Like there was something there, but yeah, like the technological aspect of that was like that caught everyone off guard until Fort in the Road, and that's when like a lot of discussion started picking up about like what happened before.
Yes.
And yeah, so we see the Mossman. He's like not part of this world.
The design is great. I mean, it's very soft and curved in a way that most of the amphibian animals are sharp with like big teeth, and there's just that great contrast and just character design, I guess is what you call it.
Yeah, it has this like very calming, how do I call it, atmosphere with like everything with the Mossman in it. Because it's just minding its own business.
Yeah, it was a great contrast from monsters that are just set out to kill them.
Just wants to grill.
Yeah.
On that, I think the butterflies really, really help sell it all. Because in Amphibia, like, whenever there's something going on, you kind of notice that all of the tiny bugs are gone. They've all disappeared. Something big's happening, and that's the focus. It's scaring a lot of things off. We don't often have moments of the peace and quiet and little things floating about in it. Like glowing butterflies just kind of flying about and not being threatened at all is so out of the ordinary for Amphibia in the bush that it comes off as, okay, something different. There's something different about the Mossman. This is not normal. And I mean, I didn't pick up on the, hey, it was from another world, but it came across as, this is different to your everyday encounter. And I think those butterflies really helped it out, helped sell it.
Yeah, there was like a certain like serenity around the Mossman, which just like, yeah, I agree with you there. Like it really contrasted with like this, it's like the normal nature of amphibia itself. You know, there's always something setting out to kill you, but here with the Mossman, it was just minding its own business. There was just peace all around it. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of that.
And I do think it's interesting that Anne was the only one to ever like consistently see it. Like Wally caught a glimpse, but it ran off as the planters approached, and it ran off when Wally was there. Like it clearly, I think there's some sort of connection with Anne there. Who knows?
Yeah, I like this butterfly talk. Like, yeah, this.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just
Oh,
the
okay, yeah.
butterfly talk. It's always been connected with Anne. She has the butterfly with her mom later on. So,
Yeah, and
lots
even
of
with yeah, like even with the way they glow, it's like it simultaneously feels like natural and unnatural. Because like with the glow, like without the glow, maybe you'd be able to like make out like an actual like maybe like a creature in the legs or whatever. But like when it just glows, it just seems like that's all there is to it. Like, and maybe like it could just like, I don't know, once it like goes off screen, it just like disintegrates or something. It's not like it doesn't look natural either. But yet, like it somehow still works. The Mossman.
Yeah, there's just like this beauty and grace around the Mossman that you just don't normally see with other amphibian creatures. Like usually it's either stuff that's going to kill them or they just gross you out like the like the ants in Marcy of the Gates. I forgot what they're called, but like
Barbarians.
Barbarians. Yeah, like usually they're either trying to gross you out or just trying to scare you off. With this, like it was just I don't know, beautiful. Obviously, just beautiful.
And
yeah,
we had the butterflies and
the butterflies, the ruins.
Oh,
This otherworldly glow in its eyes.
Right. Okay. I was waiting to make sure like no one else talked about this, but like I only noticed this on like rewatching it tonight. But you know how like they follow like the Mossman's footsteps, and then you see like one of the the I guess the shot focuses on one of the Mossman's feet, and then you see like a flower still like standing, and I kind of thought like maybe like the flower wasn't there before, but like we've seen in like, Olivia and Yunnan, it confirmed that like the Mossmen have these kind of like
Oh,
growing powers.
yeah, the
Like they
drenching.
have these like kind of plant flowers. So it's like maybe when the Mossmen stepped there, that's when the flower came out.
Oh yeah, because I
Hmm.
know Andrea said like back in Olivia and Una, he said like the Mossman, they were good for the like regenerative abilities. So yeah, there's definitely that there.
Yeah, there's a bit of that in when the Mossman goes up the cliff that Anne has to scale. There's just footprints of greenery across, just going straight up the hill. So I think we get a bunch of that. Yeah, a bit of
Okay, I
that
didn't
hint
even
towards the growing
notice.
plant.
Damn.
No, the footprints just get to the vertical surface and just go straight up as if it walked up the cliff.
Man. I don't know. Just like
Yeah.
rewatching this episode was just great. Like just knowing sort of what we know now about the lore, like just having like you know because I feel like back then when you're watching it for the first time, like you're not thinking about why they make certain scenes have this great feeling of importance to them. Like when they get to like okay, what is that area called again? I keep forgetting. Like it was like Misty something, right? Like
Misty
Misty,
Moore.
yeah, Misty Moore. Just like how they presented that scene, you know, just straight from the beginning, like the different transitions they had with the mist, like that was just really something there. You know, we see like what is that? Was it a newt or something? I forgot. You know that one, like that one statue, that one broken off statue. Like it's just like I don't know. I don't know. It's just great, you know. Like they're just trying to draw you in with this environment, and like I feel like back then you wouldn't be really be thinking much of it, but now like there is a much greater air of importance here, just knowing what we know now.
Yeah, and I mean that is a stand. How did it escape Andrus? Why is it in the ruins? What does it? Was it trying to lead Anne somewhere? Does it recognize Anne? Um, is there a shadowfish somewhere that escaped? I am just throwing questions into the void. I know, but like, there's a lot this episode leaves open.
Also, oh, Sunsfury, I just checked for the footprints, and you were totally right. Wow. Yeah, there are a bunch of like, okay, wow. Yeah, that's all right there. Oh.
Yeah, which I mean, in a world with superpowers,
Yeah, it just leaves a lot of questions open. I mean, we're still like, I know that I mean, we know exactly why the Mossmen were brought over to Amphibia now, but like, I still like sort of, I don't know, I still want more from this plot point because I mean, just how they presented him Wally and Anne alone, right? Like, it already makes it super intriguing. So like, I'd love to have this place revisited, but at the same time, I'm not sure if we will. But I mean, Matt did say a lot of season one elements will come back in season three beats, so I guess fingers crossed.
bros. But
Yeah, my current thinking, we might not see that location again, but we're probably going to have some kind of extra reference to the Mossman. Like there was this whole mention about season 3B getting a little cosmic in some sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if we come back to like some kind of dimensional travel again outside of just Amphibia to Earth, and some kind of big mystical moment that has a degree of connection with the Mossmen, or some kind of relevance to the fact that they're here in Amphibia now. Something along
I,
those lines.
I think we'll be back to these ruins in some capacity. This Casatas and Wartwood. I think any future many I think Wartwood's not done yet, and these are very close to Wartwood. And so I think we'll see this again. I think we'll see the Mossmen again. I mean, we were reminded that the Mossmen and Shadowfish are there, and Olivia and Yunnan. I don't think just so Andrews could talk about them at the end. I think they still have roles to play. Although they may be minor.
Well, I wouldn't say it's minor, because I know how, like, in Olivia and Yunnan, we saw how, like, Andrews is pretty much, like, tearing up the place, like, tearing the land apart. And we know the Mossmen have the ability to, like, they have regenerative properties. And then even in Anne's calamity form, like, in true colors, like, the branches and leaves were, like, growing off of her. I think, hopefully, there's maybe some kind of, like,
Yeah, like I was thinking
connective
that too,
tissue between all of them.
Yeah.
I was looking through Fort in the Road to see if any of those structures matched what we got. Because I know, like, yeah, I was just trying to see if there's anything that lined up.
I mean,
They
part of me is like,
recommended most of
part
the-
of me is
like the
thinking that
second
like,
temple.
I don't know, like part of me is thinking that like all the statues, like ancient artifacts you saw here, I feel like not artifacts, we guess don't know anything, but I feel like, I don't know, part of me feels like that might even predate sort of the operations that Andrews is setting up back in the past. Like, now it might be jumping into like lore that's even beyond this episode, but I don't know. I just sort of got that feeling.
It reminds me more of the temples than it does of Andreas's tech.
Actually,
Which
yeah,
I
that's
think-
true.
Which I think does suggest old, although it seems to be frog-themed ruins, not like Olm-themed ruins. So I guess we'll see on that.
We do still know that there's a bunch of history that predates, like, the
Yeah.
box itself. So anything's, like, at this point, like, anything's possible.
Yeah.
I'm just
Sorry,
ready for all that wave of reveals to be hitting us. Like, I just feel like it's going to be immense.
Intense.
And Wally's at the center of all this.
Oh,
Wally is the key. Wally has one eye. Sasha gonna lose an eye.
Oh,
I am very
please,
smart. I am a very smart and understand how the foreshadowing works.
Oh man.
Okay, we don't. Let's not go there. Let's not dive into that abyss. But
Cowards.
I'm gonna hold myself back.
yes, the Mossman was very
Yeah.
nice.
The Mossman
And
was
it's a
great.
nice-
Wally was great. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. You go.
Oh,
I
like
do.
the Mossman, like, was like such like a peaceful, like, introduction, and then meanwhile, like, the Shadowfish's, like, first introduction is them, like, disintegrating bones.
Yeah, like yeah.
And the stuff with the mirrors too. On a completely unrelated note, when Wally's hat falls off this episode, he's like, "Oh, my iconic hat."
But we
and
saw that
then-
beautiful hair.
Yeah, and we saw the beautiful hair. And then in, I think, Sprig's birthday, he calls his
Yeah.
hat iconic. So I guess that's kind of a callback. You know, Iconic's hat game recognizes iconic hat game.
Yeah, maybe so. I know Amphibia, like, I don't know. I feel like Amphibia has like a weird habit if it's like running gags where like they'll try to set it up, but it just comes back up like only 2 or 3 times on the whole show. I know like not the baby and the Newtopia arc. I know that they did Marcy the Gates and then Hopping Mall, but that was it. Like,
But I like how, like, the Mossman is probably like, the Mossmen clearly don't, like, they can live for a very long time, like similar to the Shadowfish. And Lemur in the chat said the same. Yeah, Lemur in the chat has like the same like idea. Like, the Mossman and Shadowfish both have like different ways of like living for a very long time.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
that,
life and
actually,
life,
Limber, that's a
and
great
death.
point.
Wow, life and
That is
death. Didn't think about that.
That is a very good point. Because the shadowfish, they become ghosts, they live after death, and then if they see the mirror, they become physical again. Whereas the Mossman, they grow more to avoid death. So that's really a good point. And if we're looking rules of 3, then you add in what the core did, which is sort of a perversion of both.
Yeah, damn. Yeah, I guess like,
like,
go ahead.
yeah, like Mossman, like they're constantly growing like parts of themselves, so like it's like a regenerative cycle. Shadowfish, like they live forever, but they give up any like tangible form. And I'm guessing like the Mossman would like lose parts of themselves to grow new ones, but then the core is just like everlasting, just like in
Oh, it has like a
it's
super
age.
grotesque form too.
Yeah, it's just ageless and just
Yeah.
doesn't lose or gain anything in it. Well, I'm guessing it gains knowledge, I guess, in this situation. But
But
yeah,
just like
the form
Loses
itself is static.
individuality, whatever you want to.
yeah, because there's no like
You
there's
lose your
no one
individual
form
existence.
identity. Yeah, there's no one like identity to the core. Like it's just an amalgamation of like
Is that
multiple
why?
individuals. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so sorry, Nick, to interrupt. Like, doesn't it seem like maybe that's why it needed a human host, not human host, just a living host so badly? It needed life.
Yeah, like it needed like
You
a
could
direct
definitely make that
like
argument. You could definitely make the argument that it needed a proper form.
plus I feel like there were like I feel like just as like how Andrews is super desperate to get the box, like they're also after I bet like thousands of years of being stuck like that, they're also itching to get an actual like organic body, something to
Yeah.
actually move around with on like 2 legs and not like I don't know how many legs it had, but like a bunch.
Yeah. Well, 2 legs, Marcy moving around in 2 legs is always something of a lottery if she's actually going to stay upright. But yes, that general idea.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah. Imagine they incorporate more. I don't know. I don't know if I could take like Darcy seriously. If they ever incorporate like Marcy's clumsiness into that. Like, I
Yeah,
really
I
hope they
still
don't.
want to. I still kind of want to see the core like actually doing something. Because we'll see. We
I
shall
do get
see.
the vibe. I get the vibe that it will, with all of this calling Andreas incompetent, it's gonna happen sooner rather than later. I feel like.
That's true. That's true, and they'll want to establish it as a threatening villain.
Yeah, no, it is super important. I mean, not important, but it's super interesting to think about like how all these things work. Just like because the core it really is a combination of what you took from like the shadowfish and the mossman, but it's like a grotesque like abomination basically.
Yes, and this sort of it had its own sort of the infusion of this sort of intellectual hubris of Newtopia. Thinking like the Mossman and Shadowfish, by all we can tell, they are maybe smart, but they're not like building robot cities. And so sort of this infusion of this belief in their own superiority from the amphibians themselves is sort of the final ingredient in the puzzle.
Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, I think we covered. We already covered Wally and Anne. We were mostly in speculation, which is fine.
Yeah.
Because I know that's why we left the Mossman for last. I guess did we cover everything in the episode itself?
I mean, I guess we sort of did.
Yeah, I mean, we covered the planters at the beginning and the end. We covered the journey. We covered the phone incident. We covered the fire scene. Anne doing bouldering club. And saving Wally. Then Anne chucking Wally off a cliff. Then them together in the town square. So I think we did.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess something I wanted to mention a little earlier. I mean, mean, not off topic, but like I guess I just want to talk about like Brenda's songs, progressions of voice like that because I feel like you can really feel the difference between how she voiced Anne in season 1 and season 3. I feel like season 3 she definitely feels because I mean this even connects to how Matt like for me, you know how Matt like said that the official Disney age that they're 13, but they're actually ready to be 15, 16. Like for me, I feel like with the way that Brenda voices Anne, like just let's just show that the direction that she goes with her. I really do feel like she's a 13-year-old here in season 1 because I mean you sort of have that bratty voice there, but in like season 3, she's a lot more mellowed out, chill of things. So and that's how I feel like that's where I do get the vibe that she's like around 15, 16, so right there. So yeah, that was just something I wanted to put out a little while ago.
Definitely kind of follows her overall character her character progression across from season 1 to 3.
Yeah.
And just how she's changed, voice changing with it, rather than the sort of more physical changes that we might be used to, like seeing a character actively become taller over time as they grow more responsible, that we might see in other cases.
Yeah,
Not
it's just like
in Amphibia.
it's just the little things like how they. I mean, it's just like I just really do feel it because I know like when I like watched the Fix and Froba, I really just felt like wow, Anne just sounds so chill and natural here. You know what I mean? Then like when I go back here, it really does like there's this antsiness to this. There's this brattiness to this. There's just this young teenage girl feel like I get from it, and yeah, like it's just it really like you said, it really does really does nicely connect her regression.
So I guess I think we can start to wrap up.
Yep.
I think we can get into final thoughts. Like, oh wait, sorry, I forgot about to talk about the final scene with Anne and Wally, where like earlier in the episode, Hop Up mentions like, oh, you better start like learning to play the accordion, and then like there's Anne at the end of the episode, like playing the accordion for
Yeah.
Wally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was so nice.
Yeah. Sweet.
Man, I feel like rewatching this episode really did make me appreciate. Yeah, it really does make me appreciate the bond they have a lot more. I really do hope we get that one last Wally Ann episode in season 3.
Yes. Or even like a sub. Like I get there's a lot going on, so many loose ends to tie up, but make it like a subplot in an episode about I don't know, Brig and Sasha or something. Give them one final send off.
Yeah.
Seeing a Wally and Anne like reunite, perhaps
You mean like
after
get like
they're
a
connected, like I feel like there's at some moment there's going to be a point in time where Anne and Sasha meet up with all of the group of Wartwood because they're going to. They're like the two main forces in season 3, and I want to see how Anne and Wally interact there.
Oh man, Anne greets everyone in Wartwood again, like hugs Wally and has like a super like
yeah.
happy reunion, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, hey Sasha."
See, that's the vibe of like a
That could be
reunion,
an
right?
interesting dynamic
Yeah.
where like Anne, I'm not sure jealous is the right word, but like she resents how quickly Sasha has fit in with Wartwood. Like
Yes, that's
because
exactly what I wanted.
Ooh, damn.
partially because like on one hand she like still doesn't trust Sasha and she's like worried Sasha is gonna hurt Wartwood. But also she spent all this time working on it and like she wasn't that bad at the start. Like she was a bratty teenager, but like she hadn't done all that much wrong. And it took her months to fit in. And then Sasha, who's like betrayed everyone she's ever loved and whatever, does like one cool thing and suddenly Wartwood's there. So I think that could be a very interesting dynamic in season 3B between
Because oh sorry, finish your point.
and Sasha and Wartwood.
Yeah, like my idea for like 3B is that like Anne has to deal with Sasha kind of like having her own adventures with Wartwood and having what Anne had in season 1, just us not being able to be there to see it, and then like have that play into Anne's like conflict to trusting Sasha again.
Dude, that's a pretty cool thing of Amphibia. They really do let the audience see the world through Anne's eyes, and I like that. I like the fact that they've been consistent with that, right? Yeah. So I could really, I mean, if they do that, then God, like, that's going to be pretty awesome to do.
Hmm. I mean, part of me kind of wants just rather than having that sort of, oh, I'm a bit jealous of you, to just have and see Sasha actually getting along with Wartwood and just kind of just congratulate her.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, that could be just.
I'm kind of hoping on that for Anne's sake.
Like watch Wally and Sasha have like their secret handshake right in front of Anne.
Watch Wally
No,
do this
then it
secret handshake.
just zooms up to Anne's face and she's like just broken. She's just like devastated.
It's like, oh, it's cool now. I thought it was dumb and childish.
Yeah.
I get that like Ivy and Sasha teaming up is sort of a fandom cliche at this point, but like Sprig's reaction if he finds out Ivy is like now BFFs with Sasha
Oh shit.
will be
Yeah.
absolutely
That's great.
hilarious if that happens.
Yeah, that's great.
I hadn't even thought of that ever.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
great.
no.
That's great.
I have.
Like just you know there's going to be one of those close up things where it's like hyper realistic and like Sprig's voice drops like 5 octaves down and it's gonna be
You what?
Yeah, we're gonna get another scene of him just crying like a little baby. I know they did a Return of the War. Like, it's gonna be great. But yeah, I feel like See, that's what I'm really expecting them to play into. You know, just I feel like I know we're getting into Sasha talk. I don't know if I want to put that at all costs, but like I don't know. I feel like with these ideas, it definitely does. I feel like okay. I'm just gonna address something from the fan real quick, but like I know like I've seen like the fans. They are kind of worried that like when we get back to season 3, be like Sasha, she's gonna be like very changed from how she was in season 3. But I feel like with these ideas at hand here, it's just gonna be a much better way to get us used to that change. So I mean, if they do play these ideas, like I'm absolutely gonna love it. Because again, like they're playing with like the audience viewpoint, which I know is a constant. It's like it's a consistent thing that Amphibia does. So I feel like yeah, they definitely could do that with season 3 here.
If she dies, she dies.
Excuse me.
I mean, whatever happens to like the Sasha like character development in season 3B, like I'm down for whatever.
Yeah,
still
I'm like
on for the ride.
I feel like they're gonna get it absolutely right. I mean, like
Yeah, I
if there's
think so.
anything
Too.
if there's anything I have trust in Amphibia for, it's like their character arcs. Like, I feel like Matt he already has an idea of what he wants to do with them by the end. We all got
the show's basically done at this point. He knows what he did.
Yeah, and he sounds super proud of it too. Like, I mean, he sounds super proud of it too. So, like, I mean, I can't even knock the man for that. So, yeah, I don't know. Plus, like, it's I don't know. We all already have to accept. I mean, like, Sasha and Mark's are their side characters. So, like, yeah, obviously, you're not going to see that day by day progressive growth that the plan just get. Like, it is what it is. Enjoy what you have here. That's how I feel about it.
Besides, having fewer Sasha episodes means we have more Anne episodes, and you can't say no to that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, honestly, as an Anne fan, I agree there. As like, honestly, I would sacrifice the Sasha episode, give me another Wally and Anne episode. You know what I mean? I wouldn't complain.
I'm down with that.
But
Yeah,
you're not sacrificing any more than what we have. Okay, no.
Sunsfury has drawn a line in the sand.
Like,
You give me
go ahead,
one Sasha episode, half season. That's it. That's all I need.
Make it a 22-minute special at that point. Make it a 22-minute special. Like sacrifice an entire 20. No, make episode 10 another Wally and Anne episode somehow. Like I would love another one. I just love the dynamic.
The big series finale, and then a Wally and Anne episode, like as the actual series finale. We did it, guys. We fixed the fandom. We solved all the issues.
You know what? Part of me really wants to see that, to just see the fandom explode.
I'm imagining like the SpongeBob and Patrick meme where it's like Matt just talking to the crew, like we did it, guys. We
Yeah.
Finished the show.
Oh man, that'd be great.
I guess this is a good time to wrap up. I guess starting with
that year.
starting with Nick. Any final thoughts on this batch of episodes?
Man, just I don't know, just two examples of season one at its best. Really fun episodes, good development. Really, just a great way to like. This was Wally and Anne was originally an episode. I knew it was great, but like, I never pushed myself to really think about it, to really enjoy it. But like, yeah, doing that here, really awesome. I really do want to see Wally and Anne get another episode of them by themselves in season 3. And yeah, I'm just all around pleased with these episodes again.
All right, thank you, Nick. Uzbeks, any final thoughts?
Like I said, Night at the End is very good. I know it's gotten sort of the short shrift tonight, but Wally and Anne is absolutely a joy, a great episode all around. These are two of the episodes that, in focusing on something outside just sort of Anne and the planters, one individual planter and then Anne and a townie, it really showed the writers coming into their own in late season 1. So yeah, just a great episode.
Thank you, Uzbeks. Sunsfury, any final thoughts?
Yeah, just like these are some really good quintessential season 1 episodes, and they just kind of they come in at the point where season 1 is getting close to its conclusion, so it's speeding up. We see Anne really starting to come more into her own as her end of season 1. Hey, I'm a reasonable person now instead of a complete jerk kind of thing, and it's great to see these two. It's great to have a bit of fun at night at the inn. I love the little twist at the end. Wally and Anne is an all-star. Great stuff.
All right, thank you, Sunsfury. And yeah, overall, my thoughts on these episodes, like, Night at the End was like a poly episode, horror themed, A tier. Then Wally and Anne, like we've talked about it even longer. Like that's an S tier episode. Like this and Anne versus Wild are like probably my favorite episodes of season 1. Like excluding like toe tax and reunion and prison break. Like these are up there, 100% sure. And like they're only gonna age better. Like Wally and Anne is only gonna keep like aging
Getting
better.
better in this respect.
Absolutely, like even once all this is over, like Wally and Anne is gonna be like is an absolutely like essential episode for like rewatch, regardless of like the circumstances. Like you never know like when this episode's gonna like come back into play, because it feels like it just keeps on like we have an episode in season 3 that references like a past episode, and it's like okay, it's a nice callback. It's like Wally and Anne is just like it like keeps on giving.
Yeah, this is one of those many examples where like past Amphibia episodes just age like wine. Just like all the information we have now, it's not even just about the lore. It's also just like the progression we got from Anne herself. Like all of that just make Wally and Anne just such a great episode.
And with that, like that pretty much concludes like this week's recording. Or like thank you guys for coming on, and thank you for anyone who has listened to the very end. Next week, or sorry, next week, this is probably going to be the last recording of the year. So we'll see you guys in 2022, where we'll start off the year with what do we have next? Oh, family fishing trip and bizarre. That's
That's a combination.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
for sure, yeah. So then until then, like Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and we'll see you guys in the new year. Say goodbye, everyone.
See you guys.
Bye. Have a wonderful time.
See ya.